Well, pretty much everyone I know is feeling a little more grumpy than usual these days. It's colder out, it gets dark so early, and we all know what's coming. A long, cold winter. But for some people, dealing with the time change and the season change can actually be quite acute. You've probably heard of seasonal affective disorder. Well, Dr. Norman Rosenthal is the one to have first coined the term and developed treatment for it. He's a psychiatrist, researcher, and best-selling author. His new book is Defeating SAD, A Guide to Health and Happiness Through All Seasons. And he joins us now. Thank you so much for your time today, Dr. Rosenthal.
Glad to be with you.
So I can only imagine how many times you've answered this question, but it has to be asked. What exactly is seasonal affective disorder, and how many of us are affected by it?
Well, as the days get shorter and darker, some people are vulnerable to behavioral and emotional changes. And these include slowing down, difficulty waking up in the morning, and just difficulty in general. They overeat, oversleep, and just fail in some ways at work and in their relationships. Well, that's how they see it, as a failure. I mean, I don't. I see it as a vulnerability. But no matter how you define it, it's very unpleasant and can lead to depression and can last for quite a long time, months at a stretch.
So how do you know, as I mentioned, so many of us feel it to a lesser degree, I would say, but what are the signs that perhaps it is something more serious?
Well, it's interesting because, even if you have it to a lesser degree, it can nevertheless really be a dampener and take the fun and sparkle out of life. So in a way, everything that applies to people with a more severe form, which we call SAD or seasonal affective disorder, everything that applies to them also applies to people with a milder version, which we call the winter blues. And in North America, millions of people suffer from this problem. And the further north you go, and I know you're pretty far north, the further north you go, the more common it is, the more severe it is, and the more it's worth just really paying attention to it and trying to do something about it.
I was thinking about the things that just sort of instantly lift your mood, and certainly standing in a sunbeam is one of those top things. The minute you feel even just sometimes a bit of cool, fresh air on your face, but also just that sunshine. So is that where the idea of light therapy came to you, or how did you come up with this, Dr. Rosenthal?
Well, I came from South Africa, which is quite a sunny country, and I came to New York City, which of course is quite far north and dark. And so I noticed the difference. I had never really experienced trouble in the winter, and yet when I came here, I had all the things that I've just described. And nobody had a name for it. Nobody recognized it. I was just chuckling and thinking that they used to call it the Christmas crunch in the office. And, well, of course, that hardly describes it or does justice to it because it doesn't only happen over Christmas. It's quite a long stretch and people really feel it. But when you don't have a name for something, you don't realize it's biological, you don't have a treatment, you're kind of stranded with your despair and your difficulties. But now, of course, and I did that for 3 years running in my residency in New York, till I came down to the National Institute of Mental Health here in Bethesda, Maryland, and a very inspired patient who recognized the connection with light in his own seasonal changes. We put the story together and coined it, and since then, and that was quite a while ago, but still I think a lot of people don't realize it. I mean, I saw two recent patients of mine who had worsening of their mood problems and didn't make the connection. It's not always intuitive that it was the light that was doing it.
And is it as simple? I mean, nowadays you go on Amazon, there's a gazillion different types of lights that you can buy that claim that they're going to help with this. Is it really that simple and straightforward? And I guess, is sunshine still the ultimate help, the vitamin D?
Well, I'm glad you asked the question because it really isn't that simple.
Okay.
Firstly, if you get the light, you have to get the best kinds of lights. That's why I've written this book, Defeating SAD. as a guide to health and happiness through all seasons because it outlines which are the best boxes to get, but not only that, but how to use them, when to use them. The morning, for example, tends to be a more powerful time than other times of day. The other thing is that it's not just light. Yes, light does a lot, but there are many other things you can do that will enhance the benefits of light. So that in the end, I truly believe that for almost everybody, you can really defeat this condition. But you have to apply yourself and combine different approaches. That's what I've really concluded after all these years of working on the subject.
Now, I'm not going to ask you to give us too much because I know you want people to read the book, but I was just thinking about what you said going back to when you first moved to New York and they were calling it the Christmas crunch. And I was like, that time of the year, I know the holidays can be incredibly difficult for lots of people, but by the same token, it's a very busy time. It's a hectic time. November feels like the end of everything, right? Because everything's kind of like the leaves are falling. It feels like a season where, well, literally everything is starting to die. And then I find the holidays are busy, but then by the time you get into the end of January and February, there's that like, oh God, will it ever end? And a sort of hopelessness. And we're not generally as active because of the weather and such. So I wonder how that comes into play. Like, is being busy an important factor in helping to avoid seasonal affective disorder?
Well, I think being busy all by itself can be a distraction.
Okay.
But rarely do I find that it's really curative. Sometimes being busy, like the Christmas preparations, the gifts, the cards, can be experienced as a huge burden by people who are struggling. So I'm not sure the busyness is the key, but exercise is definitely very valuable, and especially if you can exercise outside. Go and walk outside, look up at the sky, and of course there are the winter exercises like cross-country skiing and various things. There's also some value in escaping. Next week, I'm planning with my wife to go to Puerto Rico for a week. You sometimes just a break of a week here or there can make a huge difference. But it all amounts to planning because you've got to accept that this is part of your biological vulnerability and what can you do to fix it. And the good news, of course, is that there are so many things that you can do.
I like this idea of accepting it because I think that's a big part of it, right? Is people just they're either in denial or they're not accepting that this is their reality. And I also, you're giving me the impression that SAD is experienced quite differently. Like it's not the same for everyone.
Absolutely, yes. Everybody, we're all unique people. And of course, it also depends on the challenges in our lives. If you've got to get up early in the morning to get the kids off to school, or if you've got a long day at work or a deadline, I always advise people to avoid deadlines that are going to put them under pressure over the winter time. Much better to have a deadline at the end of the summer than a deadline at the end of the winter. So I think just accepting enables you to plan, enables you to prepare. You get the light boxes, you get an exercise program in place. Maybe you get some help with a trainer or even some help with the household chores. It's a recognition that we're human and we're vulnerable to human frailties, and this is one of them. And in fact, if you do and you accept it, you can actually begin to enjoy the winter a little bit.
I believe you. And I think just that idea of like that you're being proactive, that's got to be empowering in itself. Great to talk to you. Thank you so much for your time, Dr. Rosenthal.
My pleasure. Have a good winter.
Oh, you too. And a good trip to Puerto Rico. I'm a little jealous on that one. That was Dr. Norman Rosenthal, a renowned psychiatrist researcher. His new book is called Defeating SAD. So that's Seasonal Affective Disorder, SAD, a guide to health and happiness through all seasons.